I call this meeting of the Gloucester Community Preservation Committee to order at 6:02 on June 6th, 2023. In accordance with state open meeting law, this meeting has been posted as a Zoom meeting, will be recorded by video and audio, and will be conducted by remote participation. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer or a device, there is a raise hand button in the Zoom app that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options. Committee members in attendance this evening include Carrie McKenna, Bob Whitmarsh, Rob Gullah, Mark Poulin, Jane Remsen, and myself, Matt Lundberg. Not in attendance this evening are Harry Hoaglander, Bill Cuff, and Jennifer Lee Levitz. If any of them do join later, we will recognize them at that time. With that, we will move to the first item on our agenda, which is the review and approval of our May 9th meeting minutes. We distributed those minutes a few days ago. Any comments from any committee members? Jane?
Yes, I actually have a couple of comments. Do you want, what's the easiest way for me to do this?
Say page, well, it's for
Page
Zoe
number.
should specify that, but I'd say page number and area on the page.
Okay, under 50R Maplewood Affordable Housing number 2 on page 3. It says Jane R. states that her and Jennifer Lee, that should be she and Jennifer Lee. And reviewed instead of they went over, not a big deal. Maybe I'll just quickly run through these and then I can send Zoe a little note so that she doesn't have to frantically write them down if you guys think it's okay.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yep.
But halfway through it says he is asking for $250,000 in funding. I just wanted to clarify that he hasn't changed his original funding request of $250,000. And the last sentence says Jennifer Lee states his intention to offer affordable units. I just want to say because he believes that's what's best for Gloucester. And then on page 5 under Saunders House, second sentence is she states they have had a conservation assessment done and one of the steps they have targeted is first floor improvements. It's actually the first step that they've targeted, and also it's first floor stabilization more than improvements.
So instead of one of the steps, it should say the first step they have targeted and replace the word improvements with stabilization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But again, I can, if you guys all agree with those edits, I can just email them to her.
Great. Those adjustments are all fine with me. I had one other one, which is on the top of page 2. Suzanne Egan, Gloucester's General Counsel. This is very minor. Apostrophe should be before the S, not after the S.
Mhm.
So,
Matt, I have a quick question. So I have a question for Suzanne, I guess, and it's not about the minutes. The minutes are accurate.
well, can we finish the minutes then?
Well, it's about the minutes, I guess, or it's a question about what was said at the minutes.
Okay.
So I don't know how that works. I guess I can take my question from her offline.
If your question might lead to a change in the minutes, then go right ahead.
It won't. Then I'll take it
Okay,
offline.
then let's vote to accept the minutes first and
Yeah.
then we'll take your question. So I move that the May 9 minutes be amended as indicated in this meeting by members.
Second,
Motion.
can we just say we move to adopt the minutes of May 9th as amended?
Yes, that sounds like a good motion. I second it. Roll call vote on minutes. Carrie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Matt, yes. Motion to accept minutes as amended is passed. So yeah, Jane, that'd be really helpful if you would forward a note to Zoe with your changes. That'd be great.
And actually, Zoe, could you send me the Word document so that I can just put the edits right directly on there? That would be super helpful.
Thank you.
All right, Mark, your question on the minutes before.
Well, it's really, I guess I'm gonna have to address it to Suzanne later on, but it was about the comment in the minutes that about the MOU and how the mayor gets to sign off on all, or has to sign off on all work done on public land or building, right? I think that's what the language said in there. And I guess process-wise, I was just trying to understand that. So if you need a memorandum of understanding before you can even be eligible, and that means the mayor gets to sign off on something or could say no to something before it even gets to eligibility.
That's correct. And I think we covered this all in the May 9 meeting to a fair extent. And rather than discuss it more at this meeting, I'd be happy to chat with you offline.
Yeah, it just, I guess it came to light. When I read it in the minutes, I don't remember the consequence of just the way it sounds. It sounds like the mayor can say no to something before we even get a vote.
The mayor is responsible for the city's properties.
Right.
So whether something is funded with CPC money or anything else, the mayor has to approve it before it continues on that. So we can chat about it offline, but let's do that.
But only on city-owned land is what we're not talking about all projects. We're just
No,
talking about.
city-owned land or
projects
city-owned
that's-
resources.
Right,
City land
correct.
or city resources.
Yep. Good.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, then we're on to the next agenda item. And we've got this is our first of 3 nights where we hear presentations from our 2023 applicants. We've got 4 presentations this evening. And I will review the bidding right now, and we'll remind it before each presentation. We've asked each of our applicants to prepare a 5 to 7 minute presentation of their application. We've all reviewed the applications in Neighborly thoroughly. And so the presentation is mainly to reinforce the most important points from that, and then leave us a good 15 minutes or so for a discussion and question and answers as we strive to learn more about the application. Before we proceed to the first presentation of the evening, I do want to recognize that Harry Hoaglander has joined. Harry, good evening. And with that, we will proceed to the first presentation. That is from the Gloucester Affordable Housing Trust, who has applied, excuse me, for a $100,000 request this year. Here with us from the Housing Trust is Mike Luster and Deanna Fay. I'm going to promote both of you to panelists so that you can speak with us, as well as share your screen if as necessary. And there we are. So we've got Deanna and Mike. Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Matt?
Great, thank you.
I have Chris McCarthy here with me as for moral support. He's also a member of the trust. So
great.
Thank you.
Sure. Is there anybody else that we should add, or is it just you two?
If I had shared the link with the rest of the members of the trust, for viewing purposes, but
Perfect.
Right now it's just Deanna and I. So I think that's it. Is anyone else waiting? No.
Nope. No. So it's well, there are other people attending, but we only need to promote you if you are actively presenting. Excuse me. So you have the floor. So 5 to 7 minutes. I'll run a timer, and we can proceed from there. So
Terrific.
yep. And if you'd like to share your screen for anything, you can do so. If you need any help doing that, let me know.
I'm going to turn the screen sharing over to Deanna.
So I would share my screen.
Great. There should be a control at the bottom of your screen that says share screen, and you can walk through that.
So as Deanna's sharing her screen, I just wanted to say a good evening to the members of the Community Preservation Committee. As Matt mentioned, my name's Mike Lester. I'm the chair of the City of Gloucester Affordable Housing Trust. Members of the trust would like to thank the members of the CPC for this opportunity to present our application tonight, and hope that this will open the door for future conversation and collaboration. One thing that you're going to see when the presentation started is, how are we doing?
Are you able to see it? I'm sorry, I have it up on my screen.
I cannot.
Let's see. Who's disabled? It says I'm disabled participant screen sharing. Is there something else that I need to do besides?
Matt, you're
Matt, you're muted.
muted.
Okay, I think.
There we go. You did it.
Now we can see it.
Now if
I
I
didn't
can
even
just
have to
get it
unmute
on full
myself.
screen.
All right, thank you very much. First screen, we just wanted to quickly review our mission. So as you can all read, the mission of the Gloucester Affordable Housing Trust is to increase, preserve, and maintain affordable housing in the city of Gloucester. In doing so, it is also the policy of the city and Affordable Housing Trust to protect, preserve, and enhance the economic and social diversity of the city, to provide affordable rental and home ownership options for people of all ages and income levels, and to accommodate the changing housing needs of families and individuals. Little bit of the history of the Affordable Housing Trust. We were appointed under Carolyn Kirk's administration in 2008. There are still 3 original members of the trust on the trust, and it's myself, Ruth Pino, and Mary John Boylan. Since then, we've added Joe Bertolino, Heather Daigle, Deanna Fay, and Chris McCarthy, and Community Development Director David Fields is also on the board. The idea behind it was to create, to preserve and create affordable housing in the city of Gloucester for the benefit of low and moderate income households. The reason we were appointed and this all started was, if anyone remembers the Villages of West Gloucester, that was the city's first payment in lieu of $350,000. And it was provided by Brian Lever, the developer at the time. Shortly after that, he ended up selling the development. Someone else completed it. But that's how the trust started. Historically, we functioned with limited resources. For many years, we acted as a funder more than an initiator. We were kind of order takers at the time. The applications were on the smaller side. It allowed us to spread around our $350,000 over smaller projects over a number of years. Given our limited resources and our lack of development in the city from 2009 and beyond, we never took on the role of initiator. There were just no developments to provide these payments in lieu. And that was our only real funding source. In or around 2016 and 2017, we opened up communication with CPC back then, had a few meetings here and there to see if we could collaborate. Nothing really ever materialized. We were able to sprinkle around our resources, which led to the rehab, creation, and preservation of 162 affordable housing units, which are outlined on the next slide. You can see that we did some, we provided $25,000 to Central Grammar for a repointing of the bricks at the time. We helped Carl Gardner create 3 units for resale, affordable housing units on Taylor Street. We funded that at about $10,000 per unit. We did the same thing for Action on Marsh Street. Those are rented units, $40,000, again, about $10,000 per unit. The Cameron's project at called Harbor Village on Main Street, we funded that for 10,000. This one's an interesting one, the Haven Terrace. This is where we talk about the preservation of a unit. This homeowner was about to let this unit go to foreclosure. At the time, the folks at Harbor Light Community Partners reached out to TD Bank. They actually found the owner of this unit who had moved out of state, offered him a deed in lieu of foreclosure. Once this unit was foreclosed upon, the bank, the deed restriction is lifted. So this is one that we would have lost from our housing stock if this didn't happen. So we're proud to be able to preserve this unit and play a role in it to the tune of $35,000, where we provided those funds to renovate the unit and get it ready to be resold. And then most recently, you were part of this as well. We had set aside $200,000 for the 71 Middle Street project. So that's to the tune of about 162 units over the last, 2008, 14 or 15 years. Next slide, thanks. Our revenue sources over the years, you were looking at it. I've already explained it was that payment in lieu from the Villages of West Gloucester project. That's what we've been working off of until approximately 2 years ago, when we became a group that receives an allocation of about 3% of the city's community impact fee on an annual basis, which is about $50,000 a year. And we will expect to continue with that on an annual basis. And then many of you know that may or may not know that the mayor had informed us back in the winter that the Affordable Housing Trust was awarded ARPA funds of about $1.5 million. This is a one-time investment. We don't expect to see that again. We have not received the funds yet, but we're excited to put those funds to work. So basically our revenue sources since day one has been that payment in lieu until recently when we were awarded the allocation of the community impact fee. So why did we come to the CPC? In the summer of 2022, the trust voted unanimously to use a portion of the community impact fee allocation to hire a consultant named Jennifer Goldson, a certified community planner, to help us formulate a strategic plan. One of our main initiatives was to identify annual predictable funding sources. So this is actually the AHT's 2024 to 2028 strategic plan. Sorry for the typo. We set as one of our operational goals to work in collaboration with all of you to ensure that at least 10% of the CPA funds are allocated to us annually to support the implementation of our plan and to create an annual predictable funding source, which we just haven't had. Community Preservation Act states that a city or town may appropriate money in any year for the Community Preservation Fund to an affordable housing trust. And additionally, as you all know, at least 10% of the total revenue is allocated for housing purposes. Back to bullet number 2, we do know of a few, I'm sorry, back to the YCPC bullet number 2 on that page, Deanna. Next slide. So it does state that a city or town may appropriate money. We know of it happening right now in several communities, but I know I'm missing some. Norwell, Harvard, Lincoln, Cambridge, and Malden all appropriate funds on an annual basis from community preservation to affordable housing trusts. Next slide. So the benefits of us having this predictable funding source from the CPC, we're comprised of housing industry professionals with a combined experience level of over 200 years in different facets of housing. We meet monthly, which allows us to be more nimble. Our meeting frequency allows us to entertain applications and distribute funds more expeditiously. Another one of the item is that we can use funds for pretty much any affordable housing situation where I think CPC is restricted to only supporting projects where they funded the creation or acquired it, if I'm not mistaken. And finally, part of our strategic plan is that we're in the process of creating a more streamlined application. We want to make our page on the city's website more visible to builders and developers. And we want to create a streamlined application going forward. How are we going to do all this?
Hey,
By
Mike,
advocating?
is this your last slide? Because we're running a little bit late.
We are getting, yeah, I'm almost there. I can move pretty quickly.
Thanks.
How are we going to do this? By advocating and becoming more of an initiator than a funder. Having conversations with builders and connecting them to projects using city-owned land is another potential opportunity. We want to reach out to organizations to create local multifamily acquisition programs to create affordable year-round rental housing by preserving the housing stock we have. These are just a couple of our priority actions that we identify in our plan. In order to stimulate these actions, we need a predictable annual revenue source. Finally, we have shared housing goals between the Affordable Housing Trust and the CPC. These affordable housing needs are not going away anytime soon. The OPERA award, coupled with the collaboration with CPC, would allow both of our groups to have a real impact. If we are fortunate enough to be awarded this grant, we see the start of a valuable partnership between our two groups who share common housing goals, which are outlined on the last slide. Our applications for our allocations will continue to be reviewed by the city council, as yours are. And on an annual basis, we'd like to update you on what we've done with the funds on an annual basis. I'm sure you'd like to see that. So I know we're running out of time, but we want to thank you for considering our application. I've been involved since 2008 and have had several conversations with CPC over that time to see if we could kickstart something. We feel that the time is now to create a partnership where there is tremendous benefit to the opportunity to both of our groups, the city and the community.
Thank you, Mike. And thanks, Deanna. All right. So we're open for questions from the committee. Anybody who would like to start can raise their hand. And if nobody raises their hand, I can jump in because I have several. All right, I'm jumping in. Mike, a couple of things. First, the presentation was great. Thank you. And thank you for confirming that if we do move ahead, Affordable Housing Trust will give us a report each year on funds spent in the prior year. I think it's important that we work together on a regular basis if we proceed this way. And one of the big annual milestones is going to be this type of meeting each year when we're considering the following year's funding. And I guess my question is, I think I know the answer, but the question is, we're talking about the AHT coming to the CPC each year with a request for funds to be moved to them. It's not an annuity that we're agreeing upon now for 10 years or perpetuity. This is an intent to come to us annually and request funds. Is that correct?
That's correct. Again, we don't expect it to be just awarded without us proving our worth from the year before. I mean, as part of our application next year, I would think that you would want to see some sort of operating statement or some annual report to go along with it to show how the funds were used in the prior year. And that's our intent.
Right. And another thing which you mentioned, and I just wanted to amplify, was that whatever the Affordable Housing Trust does with funds, like us, you have to go to the city council for approval before projects are approved and released.
100%. Yeah, all of our allocations are reviewed by city council and they have final approval.
Okay. And I'll mention one point because I think you hit it briefly, and this one needs a correction. my understanding of the statute is that any usage of CPC funds by the Affordable Housing Trust still needs to comply with CPC eligibility restrictions. So we would need to be in the loop on any projects that you consider, if only just to confirm that they're eligible.
Gotcha.
Questions from other committee members? Those are the main ones I had.
Yeah, I have just a quick question where, with regards to the annual reporting, would they be held to the same standards that everybody else is of the quarterly reporting?
Is that a question for Mike?
Well, no, probably more for you. I don't think Mike would know. the
Yeah,
answer.
So I'm sorry, what's the question, Carrie?
So typically we get a quarterly report from the organizations that we have funded. Would we still be getting that, or is it just going to be the yearly update?
We would not be getting that.
So I think
why not?
Because they're not required to report to us. They would be funded by the AHT.
But wouldn't the AHT have to report to us on a quarterly basis, as every other organization that we fund does?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct. That's not required in the statute. That's a requirement that we have when we have agreements with people that we are funding.
I mean,
Right.
if I can just cut in, I'm fine to do anything you'd like, but remember that, the reason I kind of chopped through this application with the help of a few members of the trust. Remember, we're not looking for a project-based request here. So I had trouble working through the application because it is more of a project-based application. And does your requirement for the quarterly update, is that more to do with the applications being project-based? And you're
Well,
going
I
to hit
think
certain milestones?
In your case, I think it would be, you'd be able to say you gave X number to this organization for whatever. I mean, I guess my question is just Matt, you were indicating that it would be a yearly update. Everybody else is quarterly. So I was just questioning why that was.
Well, yes, so let me rephrase that. My feeling is that if we are to engage in a relationship with the Affordable Housing Trust, that we need to be working together regularly. We need to be in touch with the Affordable Housing Trust on a regular basis, perhaps even more than quarterly. I would hope, Mike, that when you guys are working down projects, for example, you might say, hey, we're looking at funding the startup costs for the Gloucester Avenue, project.
Gloucester Ave, yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys doing anything with that? If for no other reason to avoid that we are double funding something, which with the YMCA project. So I think that we would like to see the HT let us know about everything you're doing, just so we're not, doing the same thing.
And that's the way I've seen this from the beginning is, we're not looking to take anything away. We're looking to collaborate and be more of a partner. And I think it's important to open up the lines of communication just so we don't have those situations arise, Matt.
Harry, did I see you had your hand up earlier?
Yes, I did. Perhaps I missed it, but in your report, Mike, which was a very nice report, I understood most of it, except the only contribution I saw to the Affordable Housing Trust was from the villages of West Gloucester for $350. There must have been other inputs in that fund since then, since you've distributed quite a bit. It would be helpful to me if you could somehow outline how much has come in and where it's gone.
Yep. So we've earlier in the presentation, you didn't miss it, Harry. It was a $350,000 allocation from Brian Lever, and we spread the $340,000 of that amongst 6 or 7 projects to the creation and preservation and maintenance of about 162 units of affordable housing around the city. That was from 2008 to 2021, when we were awarded 3% allocation of the community impact fee. So moving forward, in addition to any payments in lieu, we are going to receive 3% of the city's community impact fee to the tune of around $50,000. But you're right, that's the only payment in lieu we've worked off of since 2008.
There's been no other payments in lieu by any developer?
No.
Well, since I live in the villages of West Gloucester, I guess part of my purchase price has been subsidized in this thing.
Yeah.
So if I could jump in, the zoning ordinance says that when a small development is built, either the developer either has to include one affordable unit and build it and sell it, or rather, deem it affordable, or payment in lieu. So many times the developer just chooses to build the unit rather than to make the payment in lieu. And I actually, on a separate note, find that somewhat interesting because the original intent of that was to create affordable units elsewhere in the city if the developer didn't want to create units in the specific development. But it sounds like your funding is just sort of piecemeal. It doesn't equate one-to-one, which is really what it's supposed to be doing, I thought.
Oh, when you say the payment in lieu compared to the value of a unit?
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's a big debate going on right now. There's,
yeah.
there's been one in particular that's been in the news and yeah, that's the big debate, Jane.
Yeah. And also you'll be getting some ARPA funds, is that right?
Yep, we were awarded the funds. We haven't received them.
And how much were you awarded?
1.5 million.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. We were excited to hear that as well. I have to credit Heather and Deanna for their application and their presentation on that.
I have one last question since I appear to be talking now. Do you ever use your funds? I know this would be outside of CPC funding qualifications, but do you ever use your funds to help people jump the gap between what they can afford and basically, and in the 60% AMI, assuming that or 80% AMI, assuming that their income doesn't come up to that amount?
Bridge the gap to purchase or rent, or what's the?
To rent or purchase, either.
So the answer is no, we haven't. We haven't to date, but there are some action items in our strategic plan. I think, if you guys have a copy of it, we did include it and you can take a look at that as well to see some of the items in our short-term, middle, and long-term goals. Some of them may be to pursue rental assistance, down payment assistance in the future. It's not on our immediate goal list, but we've kicked around quite a bit, and there are some items we deemed as short-term, medium, and long-term goals.
Yeah, I did read it, but I skimmed it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also say, Mike, one of the better pieces of information that helped me at least feel like I got a better understanding of what we're talking about is your strategic plan. That's a good document, and if you guys haven't dug into that, I would encourage you all to. Excuse me.
So the Jennifer Golson, really, if you guys don't know her, just check out her webpage. She's impressive. She's impressive, and she really helped us. And I think she brought our group together as well. We've got some, as I mentioned early on, we've got 3 members of the trust that have been on since inception back in 2008. And then we've added some newer people who are really want to move us to take on more of an advocacy role and an initiator role. We've just, like I said, we haven't had the funds to become an initiator. We were pretty much waiting for applications and trying to spread it around to as many units as possible. But we feel with the ARPA funds and then opening up potential funding sources with CPC and community impact fee and the new energy we have injected into the trust, that we feel like we can take on that role and be more initiators than just order takers.
Very good. Committee members, any other questions? All right. Well, Deanna, Mike, thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you all so much. And if you have any questions, anybody, I'm at Cape Ann Savings Bank. You can reach me at any time.
Great. All right. Thanks so much. I'm going to move you back to regular attendees.
Thank you. Thank you, Deanna.
Let's see here.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Next up is the 67 Middle Street Patillo Building Affordable Housing application. Representing the YMCA tonight is Jamie McGrath. Jamie, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. And if there's anybody else who we should do the same with, let me know.
Hello.
Hi, Jamie.
With me tonight, I got Tara Mizrahi from Affirmative Investments, Jen Hockerman, and David Goodwin should all be promoted in.
Got it. Very good. I will do that right now. I don't think I got Jen. Right?
SB Design,
Yeah.
it might say.
Yep.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
All right.
Great.
So the floor is yours. We prefer, as you know, to keep it to 5 to 7 minutes, but and leave more time for Q&A, but you've got it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. First, I want to thank you all for letting us present our 67 Middle Street project, our Patillo Building project. My name is Jamie McGrath. I'm the Vice President of Project Management for the Y. With me tonight is David Goodwin, our Executive Director of Housing, Jen Hockerman, who's our architect on the project, and Tara Mizrahi, who is from Affirmative Investments, our development consultant. But tonight we are talking to you about the Patillo Building. It's a project we are investing funding that relates to our 67 Middle Street affordable housing property. Currently, this property is a mixed-use property. On the first floor, we have the commercial space, which is currently occupied by the mental health unit for the City of Gloucester Police Department. And then on the second and third floors, we have 22 residents that live in single room unit occupancy units. The residents are all formerly homeless individuals. Currently, their apartments have shared bathrooms, kitchens, and common areas. Each of the units are subsidized with project-based vouchers, and the income limit is at 30% of the area median income. Our proposed development is a $12 million development, which will consist of an interior renovation, converting the entire building to 28 studio apartments, and maintaining what we have right now for the existing staff unit. One of our main goals out of this is really from the pandemic. We want to provide our residents with their own kitchens and bathrooms from privacy and from a safety perspective in case, you know, in the future, anything like that happens again. It's really important for them to have their own unit that they can utilize, as well as in addition to the studio units, we'll be adding an elevator. Right now, the elevator actually only goes from the first floor to the second floor, which is really inconvenient, especially for those living on the third floor and for our basement unit as well. So in this new development, we'll actually be adding an elevator that will go from the basement all the way to the top floor. I'll let SV Design show you that a little bit later, but the key to that is from a DHCD perspective, they really want to see that we are allowing the units to be visitable, as well as ensuring that we have handicap units throughout the building. So in this new proposed plan, we'll be able to hit all of those necessary items. And I will let David talk to you a little bit about the affordability and the supportive services we'll be providing.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us. So for the affordability part of this, so we're really looking to have everybody at the 30% AMI or lower, which if you know or not, 30% is 31,170. So we're really talking about people who can't afford to live anywhere other than affordable housing. We have a lot of folks right now that are on Social Security, disability, and otherwise they may not really have a place to live without this type of housing. For this project, we partner with the Gloucester Housing Authority. They actually maintain our wait list. So in talking to them, we found out that 30% AMI or lower is actually one of the greatest needs in Gloucester right now for housing. We're planning on doing subsidized units for all of the units in the new project, which would mean the rent is going to be 30% of what their income is. Right now, we have a very large wait list with the Gloucester Housing Authority. As you can see, 971 applicants right now. And there's very, very little studios and efficiencies in Gloucester for anyone who needs them. Next slide, please. So for supportive services, so we're going to have one staff member that lives on site. We have a manager unit in the basement. They'll be there to do like lockouts, things like that on 24 hours a day. We're going to have a full-time maintenance person to do the property. We're going to have a full-time admin housing manager, and we're also going to be adding a full-time resident service coordinator. And the resident service coordinator, we had our first one a couple of years ago when we finished the CAD project in Beverly, and it's been amazing. They help with all of these, as you can see on the screen. They help with all of these different skills. They help with applying for RAFT applications, for background, anything like that. So it really does make a huge difference to have a resident service coordinator, which we found out having our first one here in Beverly. So yeah, again, other than that, I think that the support of services is definitely needed, especially for this type of group. They really have some struggles with a lot of computer needs, mass health needs, SNAP benefits, food stamps, you name it, we'll be here to help them with it. So, and next slide, turn it back to Jamie.
Thank you. So I wanted to go over our overall timeline a little bit. As you can see, we are in front of you all tonight, and then actually Thursday night we'll be in front of the zoning board going over our comprehensive permit application. We anticipate having a 50% CD set this June, and the big piece of this is actually submitting our application in October. A huge part of the DHCD application is that they want to see that the city is supporting the projects from a funding perspective. So part of what we're hoping to gain from you all is that piece of the project. It is a $12 million project, and we're looking for the funding from you, from the city, to show DHCD that we have the city's support. We are hopeful to hear back from DHCD in January that we'll have our one-stop award and can start going to closing. And our goal is to have our construction start sometime in September of next year, of 2024, with completion in 2025. And Jen will give you a little layout of what she has designed for this new project.
Hi, everyone. So, as Jamie mentioned, the new elevator to conform with Massachusetts state code, it also accesses all floors. So in this lower level, you're seeing the elevator. Jamie, if you can kind of point to that in the middle, which also gives accessible access to a new community room down in the lower level. This will be a feature that is not present in the building right now. There are other back of house services down here, as well as some resident amenity spaces, such as a laundry room and the bike storage room. Additionally, that staff member that Jamie talked about lives in that green unit on the left side. Next slide. On the first floor, we have the historic front facade, which is not changing. There are two access points, one accessible and one not, right near the front of the building. That opens up into a lobby shown in gold. And that is open to all the residents for their use, in addition to the office by one of the YMCA staff members. We also have that blue unit is the accessible unit on this floor. There is one per floor. And the other 11 units shown in green are not accessible, but they are visitable. Again, the two existing stairs remain in place with code upgrades for their railings, and the elevator, as you can see, is larger and does now hit all floors. Next slide, please. So the second and the third floor are actually identical to each other. And again, all of the green units there are the non-accessible units, with the blue unit is the accessible. So a total of 8 units on the second floor and another 8 on the third floor, 1 on each floor being accessible. I just wanted to, sorry, say one thing quickly is that there is some, actually the last slide is perfect, Jamie. There is some exterior work that is part of this project as well. There's some repointing of the brick. As you may be familiar, this building is about half brick and also half like light blue wood siding. So there is some repair to any boards and pieces of trim that need to be repaired in addition to a full repainting. Also, the windows and exterior doors are replaced as part of this scope. Thank you.
And thank you for giving us the opportunity to go over our project.
Great, thank you all. That was a great presentation and thanks for making it so brisk. Committee, questions? Okay, as usual, I have some. I'll ask them really quickly. One, the deed restriction, why are 5 in perpetuity and the remainder for 50 years?
Maybe you want me to take this? Okay. Hi, thanks. I'm Tara. I'm from Affirmative and the financial consultant. So one of the trouble that we sometimes get into on affordable projects where we have deed or where we're shooting to try to have people in there with the 30% AMI income or below, is that those are completely we're completely beholden to these Section 8 or state Section 8, which are called MRVP, Massachusetts Rental Voucher Program vouchers. And so the YMCA is happy to keep this as affordable to those as long as they can keep those vouchers in place and keep getting those awarded basically by HUD through the Gloucester Housing Authority. But if those do not come, they will not be able to pay the bills and keep the project operating. So it's really just a safeguard to say if those ever went away, that we need to be able to have the ability to increase the rents in order to support the project. That's really all. We just want to make sure that the deed restrictions allow them flexibility to do that.
Thanks. Bob, you got your hand up.
Yes, it has to do with the windows that they're going to be replacing. Are the windows original to the building that are there now?
I'll let Jen answer that one.
So we think some of them are, some have definitely been replaced and are newer.
So Jen, we can't hear you. Jen, I'm going to take over for you.
It's
Jen.
a little bit of each.
I'm going to go ahead and mute Jen.
Okay.
May not be able to hear us.
Okay, Jen, I'm going to take over for you. We couldn't hear you. She's still not muted somehow.
Yeah, that's weird.
I love Zoom, huh?
All right, she'll eventually stop, I think. Okay. So I think what she was trying to say is I think some might be original, most were replaced over time, but the windows that we are putting back. So 2 of the funding resources that we have here are both federal historic tax credits from the National Park Service and state credits from the Massachusetts Historical Commission. So we are meeting all of the historic requirements for replacement, but they are replacement windows in order to meet the current energy code. So they will look historic and have all of the divided lights and the buttons and all of that, but they will be new windows.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
For one of those slides said, do you have 4 full-time staff?
Sorry about that, guys.
That's it. So weird. I said you had 4 full-time staff. Are any of those shared with the project next door, the YMCA project?
So that's going to depend on how things look at that project. But for right now, we're planning on having 4 full-time staff for that one site.
Got it. Okay. I would, back to the historic question that Bob asked. I presume you've got to submit plans to the Gloucester Historic District Commission?
Sorry, everyone. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Is the do you have to go before the Gloucester Historic District Commission?
So I'm not sure if Jen's on. I'm going to answer this one too. So we did go in front of the Gloucester Historic Commission when we first were talking about renovation. We do have a support letter from them, which I do think we provided to you. If we don't, we have it. And they were supportive of the project. Technically, we don't have to get approval from them, but it didn't mean that we didn't want their support because we are going through a comprehensive permit process. So if you don't have that letter from them, we're happy to share that with you.
I think we do.
And Jen, I'm getting texts from the architect, and Historic did approve the window type that we are proposing.
Great. Oh, yep, I got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, you did submit that. Thanks. And I had one other question, which was, so you mentioned GHCD likes to see local support, which we see a lot of. My question is, what constitutes local support? Like last year, we're oversubscribed with our projects this year. And I think your application was for $200,000. We had a similar one last year with the Harbor Light project down on Main Street, which we ended up granting $100,000 to, which was adequate for what they needed. If we are budget strapped, would a $100,000 grant help you?
Jamie, you want me to take this? Yeah. So I think one thing that we found out after, one thing that I think can help us on that is that the North Shore Home Consortium also received some ARPA funding, and they currently have an RFP out now. And so I think the combination of some funding from you and some funding from the North Shore, I think will suffice. So I think if you are, I would not go below 100. And so I think if you even could do a little more, that might help with the state. But I think because we have the North Shore, I think that's okay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And we loved hearing that the trust has some other money too. So we'll be looking out for their RFP for funding too.
Right. Good. All right. That's my questions. Committee, any others? Rob.
Yes, I was just curious, you mentioned you have to go, I would assume, the ZBA for having residences on the first floor. The city doesn't allow for that. Have you done a tag meeting with the city? Have they given you any indication that you'll have any problems with this, or?
I don't know what a tag meeting is, but we certainly have had
All
conversations
the
with.
departments within the city take a look at this.
Jamie, did you do that already you went to the building commission, and I know that Deb Eliason, who's our zoning attorney from Gloucester, has met with the town as well. And we did speak with them over a year and a half ago, I think, about talking about the right permitting method for it. But because we're not adding any space to the exterior, we're not expanding the footprint, we're not changing the site plan. I think that, and I'm reading from the architect that they have met with the fire department as well on it. So I think that we're feeling okay about our initial meeting on Thursday with the zoning board.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Before I let you go, I did have actually one other question, and I may have missed it on your slide. In the application, I think your plan was to begin construction next June 2024 and shooting at tenants moving in the following June in 2025. Does that still look like where you are?
The presentation, we moved the presentation a little bit. I think we're looking more like the fall of next year, and then late fall or early winter of 2025.
Great, that's fine. Great. All right.
Great.
If there's nothing else, guys, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate
It's
it.
a great project. I'm really proud to have that in Gloucester. Guys are doing a great job.
And hopefully you all, when we finish up the 71 Middle Street project, can come visit that as well.
Yep. That's a great project too.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
I
sure.
should also say that Jamie hosted Bill and I for a site visit a couple of weeks ago, which was great. It's a beautiful building.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
All right, I'm going to knock you guys all down to attendees. And once I get that done, we'll move along. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Oh, let's go with this. Let's see. Good. Interesting. Okay, I think that's it. All right, next up, we have two more presentations tonight, and they will both be from the same person. Just one second while I get my computer in shape. Let's see, and that would be Martha Oakes from the Cape Ann Museum. So Martha, I'm going to promote you to a panelist, and you should be on our screens momentarily. Yep, here we go. All right. Martha, are you there? It looks like you're muted. If that is indeed you.
Yep, it's me.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm the only one here from the museum tonight, but it's important to point out that I'm part of a team of 18 people who work full-time at the museum with all sorts of different skills. And over the years, since 2012, actually, the museum has benefited greatly from CPC funded projects for a whole range of different things here at 27 Pleasant Street and also up at the Cape Ann Museum Green, our second site. I'm the curator of the museum, but I wear many hats like everybody here. And so this is maybe the fourth or fifth time that I've done one of these applications. The first application is for funds to help with the stabilization of the exterior of the back part of our building, which is at 14 Elm Street. And let's see, I only have one slide for each of my two projects. Is it up on the screen there? I'm not sure if it's there. Screen share.
Not yet.
Okay. Sure. Now?
There it is.
Okay. So 14 Elm Street is the back part of the Cape Ann Museum. It's a property that we purchased from the General Services Administration in 2000 maybe, 1990, I think, and is now linked to the rest of our building. The Gloucester Historic District Commission line runs right between two sections of our building, and this back part is not in the historic district. So we have spoken with the Gloucester Historical Commission, and they have said that it is a significant building, so which is why we are before you today. It was built in 1917 and was the main switchboard for the New England Telephone and Telegraph Company. And it was used for that purpose through the 1960s when it became part of the National Marine Fisheries complex and then purchased by us in 1990. And for those of you who have been in the museum, you know it's an integral part of the Cape Ann Museum. It houses our library and archives, our education space. On the second floor, it has our fisheries exhibitions and the Fresnel lens from Thatcher Island. And then, of course, in the basement is all the good stuff that makes us have climate control and modern security and so forth and so on. The building is over 100 years old, and we now are faced with doing exterior work to stabilize the brick facade to replace, I don't know when the vinyl clad windows or aluminum windows were put in, but they are generally failing. To do some work on some of the stone finishes on that back entrance you can see in the photo that I have up here that says Federal Building. And then to do work on a staircase, which you can see in the lower photograph, which now serves as an emergency exit out the back of the building, but which we would like to open up to be open for regular museum traffic between the first floor and the second floor to improve visitor flow. It's a lovely staircase with views out towards Our Lady of Good Voyage Church, so we'd like to take advantage of that. we've been working with Design Lab Architects in Boston. They worked with us in 2014 when we did renovations on the front part of our building. So they're very familiar with our site and with our capacity. They have already put out feelers in terms of what needs to be done to that back staircase to bring it up to code. As you know, when it goes from an emergency exit to public use, there are certain regulations, and we'll have to do things about the railing and the steps and the nosing on the steps. But we're confident that it will be quite lovely when it's done and help immensely with traffic flow in the museum. In terms of a time schedule, we will be beginning work on this building, and it's estimated to cost $4 million just for this end of the building. There's additional costs that sort of for the connecting part of the structure that's between the 27 Pleasant Street and this back part. So the total project is more than 4 million, but this building is estimated to take $4 million worth of repair. And we will be starting in approximately 18 months from now, so the fall of 2024. And we don't estimate being back open to the public at this site until the spring of 2026. As you can imagine, it's a bit of a nightmare trying to take care of everything in the building and still be ready for the construction and then get everything set back up again and ready for business. So it's quite a long window of construction and then reinstallation of our exhibitions. It's an interesting building and we've never really explored its history and its connections to the New England Telephone and Telegraph Company. So it's possible we'll have an exhibit about that when we reopen in 2026. So that's the extent of my my presentation for this project.
Great, thank you. And thank you for hosting a site visit. Was that just last week, you guys? I wasn't able to go.
It was yesterday, and it was very, very good. And it's a very, I think, wonderfully worthy cause of what they're doing there. I think it's gonna be beautiful once it's done.
Right. Anybody have any questions?
I got one. Is it all like 50 windows or, and how much of the facade or how much is?
Right, I should have mentioned that. So you can see in the middle picture on that one slide that on the first floor, the windows are open and accessible. That's our library space, and they will remain that way with new sashes put in. Up on the second floor, those are exhibition spaces, and we control the light quite severely. So inside those windows are sheetrocked over. We will be maintaining those shutters or replacing the shutters with similar shutters so that you still see the original fenestration of the building, that we haven't screwed around with that. To the left of that door that says Federal Building on the first floor is our education room, and those windows were closed up sometime in the past, and we will be reopening those, so they will get new sashes in them. So it's a combination of adding sashes and taking some away. And we're really just doing these two sides of the building that you can see in that picture looking up Elm Street, the side that faces, Federal Street, that faces Elm Street and Federal. The third side of the building faces Montanino's parking lot, and it is totally bricked over and cemented in, and we own just to the edge of the building there. So there are no windows to replace. We will replace or repair brickwork on that side, which is failing, but there won't be any addition of windows on that side.
And you also had mentioned that you're going to put back the original lights of the windows so that.
Right. You can see in the middle window there on the first floor, when they put those aluminum windows in, they sort of lopped off the top third of the window opening. I'm not sure why, but the ceilings are 13 or 14 feet high on both floors. So we will reclaim that missing section of the windows wherever we can.
Good, yeah.
Any other questions? I only have one, Martha. Is there any change in the budgeting that you had already put together in the application?
Not yet. It's possible that it might change. The architects have done a lot of work. You know, they've already had the remediation people in there, and we're pretty far along in the plans. So got our fingers crossed there's no unexpected other expenses. We'll be continuing our fundraising. You know, we're like every other nonprofit, we're fundraising continually. And so we hope to get some other grants and private support also to add to what was in the application.
Very good. Harry.
Yes, I was, I visited there the other day with the group, and what I think, Martha, the total, you never gave us the total cost for this whole project. Could you try that?
Right. So in my application, I said 4 million, and that 4 million is just for this 14 Elm Street property on the outside side of the historic district line. And then as you go up Federal Street, there's an infill part from 1990 that we're not considering in this project. And then you get into the more modern part of the museum, 1968 and 35 and all that. And so we just sort of divided our overall project into half. So 4 is just for this building. I think the total is 7 for the entire kit and caboodle.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Unless there are any other questions, thank you, Martha. And now you can put your other hat on.
Let me put the other slide up here.
Oh, I might have knocked your slide. You'll have to share your screen again.
Okay. I'll have to figure out how do I do that? You knocked me out. I'm off, or I'm.
Yeah, a little button at the bottom that says share screen, hit that. Yeah. There we go.
Okay. So the second project that we have an application in for, and I have to say that the Elm Street project is our priority. This is our second priority. So this was a project that was funded in part by the CPA in 2020, I think. I don't know, it's all a blur. It was in the middle of COVID that we were working on all these plans. And we have worked diligently. You've given us some extensions, but we have not finished this project. And we have now sort of come to an end of our current round of funding, and we need to gear up and get some additional funding. We have finished 3.5 sides of the Babson Alling House. And as you all know, it's located at the intersection of Washington Street at Grant Circle. And we have owned it since 2019. It was privately held. It's part of the Cape Ann Museum Green, which includes this structure, the White Ellery House, a barn, and then our new collection center. And then, I don't know, 2 acres of open land in between. And just because of the delays mostly associated with COVID, we did not get to the front facade of the house or to the adjoining privy, which you can see in the picture here. We did a little bit of work on the front entrance to the house and also on the kitchen L, which was in very, very bad condition, and which is actually part of the reason we ran out of money. But we need to drop back now and finish the front. We need to do window sash restoration. You can see on the bottom picture there some of the sashes that we've worked on already. We need to do clapboard and trim repairs. The house was in very poor condition and it's been tedious work, but our goal has been to secure the envelope of the building, and we're just about there. We have a new roof, chimney work, a few new windows. There were some single pane aluminum windows on the kitchen L that we took out. And then an important part of this second phase is the little privy, which is, I think it was probably a 2-seater to start with. It's amazing that it's still there on the site, given that it's in a neighborhood that's undergone so many changes. But it needs repairs to its roof. It used to have a roof line that sort of swept up on the ends like a pagoda. It needs repairs to the side. It has one window on it that's not in great condition. And then we're we're determined to do an archaeological exploration around the immediate area surrounding the privy. Because as we all know, that's where you find all sorts of good things that tell us about our past. So we will be working with UMass Boston to do that project. Now, it's not going to be the entire lawn of the house. It will be in the area immediately surrounding the privy. Hopefully we'll uncover some good information that we can add to our collection and add to our interpretation of the site. And we hope to work with the same carpenters and craftspeople who have been working with us. They've all done a great job. So this work will start just as soon as we get funding in place. In the past, the CPEC funds were matched by the Babson Historical Association and also with private donors to the museum. And we're sure that those groups will step back up to match whatever grant funds we can get. So if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Thank you,
And this,
Mark.
yep, this site is on the National Register of Historic Sites, unlike Federal Street,
Gotcha.
Elm Street, excuse me.
Jane,
Yes, thank you. So there's no doubt that the house is historic and all that, but one of our criteria for historic preservation funding is demonstrates a public benefit. So, and I think there was one sentence in your application about, workshops about Indigenous peoples or whatever, but can you just explain the public benefit a little more thoroughly?
So our work so far has been, as I just said, to secure the envelope, and we have not turned to interpreting the site or how we will share it with people. Like all historic properties, it's going to have a lot of challenges. It has 2 staircases inside, which are extraordinarily steep. There is no room for an elevator. But our goal will be to have the first floor at least open to the public with some sort of exhibitions in it that talk about the history of the site. And like all organizations, we've looked back much further than 1623 and look forward to exploring some of those stories that have been not explored in the past. This house has connections to Indigenous people on the land and also to slaveholders here in Gloucester. So those are some of the themes that are sort of percolating to the top now. It will be like the White Ellery House and the rest of the site, that it's open free to the public to enjoy from the outside and on the first floor, whenever the property is open. When we finish the exterior of the building, we will turn our attention to how we will conduct work on the inside. It needs quite a bit of work on the inside, and sort of how we use it and how much preservation and restoration we do inside will have to go hand in hand. Do we put sprinklers in? Do we alter doorways to make them accessible? Do we need to put a bump out on the back of the house that eliminates some of the stairways, so the stairs into the house? So we haven't addressed all those questions, but like all of the rest of the properties the museum owns and all of the things we do, we are always open and encouraging the public to participate.
Thank you.
all right. I'd like to just point one thing out. I was just browsing through my files. I think the original CPC request was 3 years ago. And it did get delayed, not just COVID, but it was one of the first projects we had where we wanted to put some covenants in place regarding potential dispositions of the house. So it did get delayed, but the original project was $125,000 request from the CPA and that was about 50% of the full project cost at the time.
Yep. So as I said in the beginning, we've done 7 projects with you guys and we've matched everything 50-50, if not more. So we're, we scrape by and somehow get it. We've just finished this first phase of the project with you all. I've just submitted the reimbursement funds. We've spent a total of $225,000 or something on the house, which is sort of mind-boggling if you think about it, but we're determined to complete the work.
Okay. Questions from any other committee members? All right, seeing none.
I'll just like to make a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. I just want to say that both these projects for keeping the museum are extremely worthy. And that from a historic point of view, from the Historical Commission, these would be really important to the preservation, and it will be a benefit to the public if we eventually find a way clear to getting this funded, if it's possible. I just want to make that comment.
Thanks, Bob. All right. Martha, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
All right, lovely. And if we have any further follow-up questions, we'll be in touch.
Okay,
Our
great.
calendar is, we kind of plod along until we make our recommendations in September. So we'll probably have a few here and there, but
Okay,
thanks
great.
again for your time
All right,
tonight.
thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. That brings us to our next agenda item, which is administrative updates. I have none. If anybody else has any questions about where we are and anything else that's going on, happy to entertain them, but I don't have anything else in that category for this evening.
Well, briefly, I was interested in the fact that, is it me or is housing in this city extremely fractured? I mean, it seems like there's so many groups and they're all doing the right thing. It just seems like if they could tie themselves together and work as a team, it just seems extremely hit or miss and spotty, to say the least. Or am I missing something?
I think I missed the first part of what you said.
It's fragmented, the housing and the support around housing. But Rob, you'll be glad to know that the woman who did the strategic plan for the Affordable Housing Trust is doing a comprehensive plan for the city that's being introduced to the planning board in the next month or so, which is a planning board initiative. So hopefully, and housing is front and center of that. So hopefully we'll pull all of it together, all the different pieces, and, you know, figure out what the goal is, figure out what we have, figure out what we need, figure out what the goal is. So,
And related,
but your comment is well made.
and related to that, the project on not Main Street, the other housing project, the second one that crowd came up.
Yeah, the Middle Street Patillo building.
Now, they have to go to ZBA. Let's say they're denied what they want to do. They probably won't be and they shouldn't be, but if they were somehow tripped, what happens with that fund or their project? Do they have to drop out? Do they need to reapply? Will they make their own decision on what they do?
So I think the way it works is that any of our funding is contingent upon all other city approvals. And it's quite possible that based on timing, we could approve a project and have those funds, and the city council might approve it, but they can't spend any money until the city council, or until the city also gets all the other approvals that they need from the ZBA or anybody else. So I could see a possibility where we said fund them. The city went and moved their funds from the general fund into a fund specific for the Patillo building project. And they never got spent because they never got approvals. And if that happened, we would just claw it back and put it back in the general fund.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm assuming they're just going because they're a non-conforming building on a non-conforming lot, or just a non-conforming building. So that's, as long as they're not changing anything, it's a slam dunk.
Yeah, the big one is as I mentioned to them, and they seem to catch on quickly, is the
commercial.
The zoning ordinance to Gloucester, you can't have residential building, residential.
On the first floor, yeah.
Or change of use, is that what it'd be, a change of use or something?
Correct, and the problem there is one, parking, obviously, and if any neighbors complain, it could get a little squirrely, that's all.
Mhm. Now, the currently that building, I mean, it's, well, right now they have 23 apartments, they're going to 28. But I don't know if any of these people have cars. It was a really interesting tour. I guess actually the one thing I really wanted to say about it, Rob, I would agree. I think the city is struggling with housing and how to best approach it. And there are a lot of different voices. The one voice that's pretty clear is the YMCA team. They I think they do a really good job. I was impressed with the tour. I think Jamie is pretty sharp, and I think the rest of their team is good too. But relative to the Affordable Housing Trust team, I think they're working hard to define and articulate their role, but it's still a work in progress.
I agree.
And I think that strategic plan was basically this consultant saying, here's what you ought to do. And they'll probably follow that pretty closely because I think they're learning on the fly, and that's a good plan to go by.
Yep, I agree. Thank you.
All right. Well then, unless there are any other comments, then we move to our final agenda item, which is to confirm that our next meeting is 3 weeks from tonight, June 20th, where we will hear, is that our 5 presentation night? I think it is. Yes, it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Cemeteries, Beauport, Hammond Castle, Gloucester Committee for the Arts in Action. So at least a couple of those should be pretty quick, and we shouldn't be too long. Very good. All right, unless there's any other business.
I did have one more thing. If anybody was interested, there is a walk at 10:30 a.m. on the 14th at Hammond Castle.
Oh, great.
Who wants to join us?
Time was that again?
10:30 a.m., sir.
10:30 on the 14th.
Rob, I'm planning to go on that one.
Yeah, I think there's another one on the 30th. I was going through some emails. There was the 14th, and there's another one out on the 30th. I think that would.
I think the cemeteries is on June 17th. Harry, does that sound right? Or did I get that wrong?
He's on mute. Harry, you got to unmute yourself.
Sorry, no, I think you got it wrong, Matt. I already.
You already had it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About a week and a half ago, and I guess
Yep.
I was the only showed up.
You know what it is, Harry? I hit 6:17 instead of 5:17. It was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, 6/17. Yeah.
So I think the Hammond Castle one is our last site visit. I don't have a note that says anything's on the 30th, Mark.
Oh, yeah, no, I got it wrong. It was June 17th. My bad.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Which it turns out May 17th. I'm reading the email. It says June 17th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well then, thanks, and real good. I'm gonna therefore move that we close this meeting of the Community Preservation Committee.
Second.
Motion to close the meeting has been made and seconded. Got to do a roll call vote, I've learned. So Rob,
Yeah.
Jane,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Matt, yes, the motion to close the meeting is passed unanimously. Everybody, thank you. And thanks, Zoe, as always, for joining us, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Excellent.
Bye.